I'm gonna wear a diadem in that new Jerusalem. I'm gonna walk the streets of gold in that homeland of the soul. I'm gonna view the host in white. They've been traveling both day and night, coming up from every nation on their way to the great coronation. They're coming from the north, south, east, and west. They're on their way to the land of rest. They're gonna join the heavenly choir. They're gonna shout and never get tired. They're gonna be somewhere around the altar, gonna shout, all my troubles over. You know I got to thank him for being so good to me. I wanna thank him this morning. I wanna thank God this evening. You know, all night long, God kept his angels watching over me. But early this morning, God told his angels, God said, touch her in my name. God said, touch her in my name. And I rose this morning,
Hello to the faithful members of Sardis Missionary Baptist Church and to members of our faithful Cyber Church family and community. Thank you for spending a portion of your Sunday with us here on the hill today in the great city of Birmingham, Alabama, at the Sardis Missionary Baptist Church, where it is our weekly mantra and incantation to experience Christ, share his word, and build believers. We hope something will be said, sung, or done on today that will aid you in your decision to worship with us again in the immediate, if not too distant future. On behalf of this faith community here at Sardis MBC, its membership and its leadership and official office staff, we wish to say to you, thank you, and we appreciate you for your weekly and your regular and habitual support. Again, on today, as you can see, we are recording our Sunday service, the sermonic aspect of our Sunday service, from the space of my office because of a lighting issue in the sanctuary. The sanctuary here at Sardis is such a massive sanctuary that if the lighting is not right, then what lighting we have is easily sucked up and absorbed in the vaulted ceiling of our sanctuary. But on today, we just wanted to take a little time to encourage you during this season of uncertainty, this season of new normalcy, this season foreign terrain. I wanted to take this time during the season of uncertainty just to encourage you to continue with the Lord and to not give up, not to relent, not to do anything that would remotely resemble your concession to defeat, because you know how our church community says, if you don't give up, God will show up. And sometimes what the church community needs is just a little nudge, a little encouragement, a little exhortation to do what we have been told historically, and that is to run on and to see what the end's going to be. So from the quarters of my office here in Birmingham, I wish to say to those of you who are dealing with this season of uncertainty, this season of COVID-19, the pandemic, and the new strands of the COVID-19 virus, I want you to know that God is still in the midst of us, and that God is still committed to manifesting, and He's committed to a manifestation of His strength, His power, His concern, and His grace towards us. Again, our ancestors would say He may not come when you want Him, but He's always on time. That was a word that I was wanting to share as an extension of our midweek Bible study lesson that I wanted to pick up in today's homily or sermon. And that was the word in Matthew chapter 11, verse 3, wherein John the Baptist, from the space of his own personal prison, he sent his disciples to Jesus and asked of Jesus, "Are you the one, or should we look for another?" No doubt about it, John the Baptist himself was lamenting, undergoing a moment of despondency and dejection. I mean, John was as human as anyone else. And that's the word to us today, because I don't want you to think that because you are a Christian, that you don't experience your own moments of feeling disappointment, dejection, despondency, your own moments of pain. John the Baptist from the prison hears about Jesus' public ministry and how Jesus has just finished teaching and instructing members of his community. And John hears of Jesus' ministry activity. He hears of how awesome Jesus is. He gets an account of how awesome Jesus' ministry has been reported to be. And all of us have been there in life. We can hear about what he's done for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We can hear over and over again ad infinitum about how he delivered Daniel out of a lion's den. And it seems to be that we are perpetually in places of our own proverbial lion's dens. We are in places of perpetual bondage that seems to be without any escape in mind of God's miraculous performance for Israel in parting a Red Sea. But our community often would say, I want to say this to you today, there ain't no secret what God can do. What he's done for others historically, God still maintains the power, the concern, and the care to do the same thing for you. And he has to allow the circumstance and the situation in the life of John the Baptist, not by deliberate design as much as he allows the situation of John's prison to be the backdrop and to be the platform against and from which his word would again speak. Some of us would not know God as a healer if we had never experienced our own sickness, our own issues of health, our own disease. But some of us have come to know him as a healer because he has healed us in the midst of our sicknesses, our issues of weakness, pain, and disease. As a matter of fact, when you read Matthew chapter 10 in its opening and the succeeding chapter where we are alluding to on today, it says that Jesus called his disciples and he gave them power over devils to heal sicknesses of every sort and to cure diseases. Listen, God still has the power. He has the ability. He still maintains his awesomeness in being able to heal you of whatever your problem and to heal you of whatever your sickness is. He allows the prison image and or imagery that John, the forerunner, listen, get this, John was the forerunner of Christ. I mean, he was the one who went before him, saying, prepare ye the way of the Lord and make his way straight, only to find himself now restricted, constrained, and bound by the structures of being in prison. Let me say this. Sometimes such as is shown in the life of John the Baptist, you can be in the middle of where God wants you to be and still find yourself at times being despondent, dejected, gripped by despair. You can find yourself detained like John was, without any problem or without any promise or without any sign of being set free. And all of us know the story of John the Baptist, the outcome of his story. But even in that, when you read Matthew chapter 11, Jesus goes on to talk about there will never be another quite like John the Baptist. I mean, he said, listen, never has there been a man born of a woman who was as awesome as John the Baptist was. And then he utilizes the irony of a twist and saying, but he who is most willing to be a servant is greater than John. He talks about how commendable John's life had been. And even as he speaks so highly of John, he says, still, those who are weak, who are willing to be servants, are going to have the same kind of celebrated regard in the kingdom. I'll say this to us today, despite us being in the midst of an uncertain season, an unfamiliar place, a foreign stretch of territory. If you serve God, God is going to do whatever God needs to do to show himself faithful in the behalf of you. You just serve God. God's going to do what only God himself is able to do. I know, we are, and I'm not going to hold us long today from my office. But I do want you to know, even though John the Baptist had grown disgruntled, had grown impatient, had become disappointed, that he was now held up in prison, that he heard about Jesus' ministry. He sent his disciples to say to him, listen, are you the one? Or am I to look for another? Again, all of us have been there. All of us have had moments wherein we have wrestled with whether we ought to do one thing or do another. Whether we ought to do what is right or do what is expedient. And John the Baptist says, are you the one? Or am I to look for another? Jesus said, go back and tell John what you have heard. Tell him what you have seen. Namely, that the blind receive their sight, that the lame now are starting to walk. Tell him that the lepers are cleansed. Tell John, who is disappointed about being detained in prison, tell him now that the deaf can hear. Tell the same John who has grown disgruntled and impatient. Tell John that the dead are raised and the poor have the good news taught to them. And he says to tell John this specifically, and I don't want any one of us to forget this. He says, tell John this: blessed is the man who has blessed is anyone who takes no offense at me. Blessed is anyone who takes no offense at me. Or as the King James would say, or the New King James would say, blessed is he who is not offended because of me. Don't you let your yes to the Lord cause you at some moment in life where God is still desiring to mature you in the Lord, to cause you to become disgruntled with the Lord. Don't be offended because of him, because God knows what he is doing. And God knows what he is up to. Don't allow where you are in life, in ministry. Somebody has been in ministry where you are for a long time and you've grown disgruntled. The Lord is wanting us to know today that you ought not be offended because of him. He told John's disciples, go back and tell John, don't be offended because of me. He says, as a matter of fact, tell John, blessed is the one who is not offended because of me. God knows what he is doing. Oh, yes, he does, and bless his holy name. Our Medianum used to cut across the field and say it this way. Jesus told John's disciples to tell them, blessed is anyone who is not offended because of me. Medill would say it this way: he may not come when you want him, but he's always on time. Is that somebody here today who knows by looking back over your own personal past and history that he may not come when you want him, but he's always on time? He showed up just when I needed him the most, and he shows up just when we need him the most. He may not come when you want him. Tell John, in the meantime, things that had not been done before are being done. Tell John what you both hear, and tell John also what you see. Tell John the blind can see now. The lame can walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf can hear, the dead are raised from the dead, and the poor have the gospel brought to him. And tell John, he says, tell John that, and anyone who is not offended because of me is blessed, and blessed is he who is not offended because of me. That's what Medill would say. He's an on-time God. Thank you, Sister Peoples. Yes, he is. He may not come when you want him, but he'll be there right on time. Somebody needs today to know today that he's an on-time God. Yes, he is. He may not come when you want him, but he's always on time. He steps in. These are all lyrical lessons from the church, from its arts ministry, from its music ministry. He steps in just when I need him the most. God bless you, my friends. Keep on keeping on. Don't be offended at God. Don't be offended because of where you are. God knows what he's doing, and he knows where you are. And he's going to do whatever he needs to do. And he's going to do it on your behalf and to his glory. And he's going to do it on time. For those of you who have watched today, who have wished to respond to the Spirit of God or to the teachings of God through the intermediary of my human voice, if you are one such person who wants to give your life to the Lord on today, why don't you do that? Let us know of your decision here at Sardis Missionary Baptist Church. If the Lord has moved upon your heart to respond to the message today, or to respond to the movement of the Spirit today, why don't you let us know here at Sardis by calling the church office, contacting the church's office, corresponding with the church's office, leaving in the comments section of this YouTube video. We would love to know about that and celebrate with you and pray for you. If you already saved, but you're looking for the church where perhaps is more in line with what your needs are, why don't you consider Sardis? And we would gladly receive you. But in the meantime, I want you to know, like Jesus told John's disciples, but as our community told us, he may not come when you want him, but don't you give up on him. Somebody can tell you by looking back over their lives. He may not come when you want him, but he is always on time.